Hi folks, how you doing? It's James JT at the movies, and I'm back for another ranking video for you. Over the weekend just gone, as of filming this, you'll probably get this later in January, to be fair, because I'm gonna stagger all these videos that I've been filming in one go. But as of the weekend just gone from filming this, myself and Laura had a bit of a movie day to chill out and get ready to get back to the grind after the Christmas holidays and whatnot. And we watched a load of horror films, and one of the films that we watched was the original Wrong Turn from the early 2000s. And this film and this series has always been one of my favourite sort of cheap and cheerful horror films, horror franchises, if you like. I absolutely love them, and anything that they churn out, I'll watch at least once. And I thought to myself as I was watching it, well, there's 7 of these movies now. There's a fair old chunk of them, and they do vary in quality. And I think we can all agree that they range from absolutely dreadful to bang average. But I still enjoy them all the same. And I thought, why not do a ranking? So that's what this video is going to be. It's going to be my ranking of the Wrong Turn franchise. And as I always do now when I do a ranking video, I quote my good friend Carl over at Carlini09, because he said it best. It's not the right list, it's just my list. This is my subjective list of how I'd rank these movies. And if yours is different, brilliant. Leave me a comment down below, actually, with your own ranking of this franchise, because I'd love to see how you guys would rank them, or your thoughts on the franchise or a particular film in it in general. It's always great to get that conversation going. I really do enjoy chatting to you guys in the comments. So yeah, please be sure to do that then. But shall we dive in and come straight in at number 7? So in at number 7, we have Wrong Turn 6, Last Resort. Now, this film is just absolute garbage. I've only seen it twice. And it really has no redeeming features. I was really, really glad I ended up buying this film on day one, because, I mean, a lot of films I'll go and buy on day one, as we all do with collectors, and it's how you end up amassing a collection, like this behind me, and there's wall in front of me, and whatever else. But yeah, I got this one as a day one release, and I'm so glad that I did, because sometimes, like I say, I'd wait, but with this one, I'm really glad that I didn't wait, because it ended up getting recalled. There's a scene in the film where the protagonists realise that there's obviously, sort of trouble ahead when they see a missing persons board in the local town, and rather than using stills of actors that are more than willing to lend the likeness to God knows what for a paycheck, the filmmakers were really lazy. So, like I say, so the story goes, and used real wanted posters and real missing persons posters, and then as the urban legend goes, if you like, one of the relatives saw their dear missing granny or whatever as listed as a victim of cannibal killers in a horror movie, in a B-grade horror movie. And so it was swiftly pulled, and it's never been released here in the UK again on physical media. It is streaming, but it's edited, and there is a German Blu-ray, but again it's edited. So I've got the German Blu-ray, and I've also got that original DVD, and I'm really glad of it. But unfortunately, the film itself, like I said earlier, is absolute garbage, and it really just sort of trails away from the series, and sort of sets up this sort of like wider idea that the 3 hillbillies had a I can't remember whether he's a brother or a cousin or somebody that got away and was raised sort of by regular folk, and then they lure him back to this hotel that's in the middle of the Virginia woods and just run by the hillbillies. All of this is supposed to be a prequel to the first film, by the way. And yeah, it just goes from bad to worse, and it really just is a poor show, and it's laughable more than it's scary or creepy or gruesome. So yeah, I would probably say give that one a miss, actually, unless you've just got a morbid curiosity. But in at number 7 is Wrong Turn 6. In at number 6 is Wrong Turn 5. So this was, again, one of the prequels, supposedly set before the first Wrong Turn movie, and this film really should have been good. They cast Doug Bradley, who folks will know played Pinhead in the Hellraiser series, as the dad of the Hillbilly brothers, and he's broken out of jail, and they're helping him, and there's like a music festival or something going on in the town, and it's all at Halloween, so the guys who are obviously deformed can walk around, sort of unnoticed, as it were, and gang of teenagers gets involved with them, and gruesome deaths sort of ensue. And it's just really crap. It's just so poor. and it's such a shame because, like I said, there is potential there to make these films really creepy or really gory or suspenseful, and they just completely miss the trick. So that is Wrong Turn 5 in at number 6. In at number 5, we have Wrong Turn 4, Bloody Beginnings. So this one is the only prequel to my mind that's worth watching, and it sets up the story of where did the Hillbilly brothers come from, how did they end up out in the middle of the woods, and how's nobody, bothered about them, the fact that they're out there, and why is nobody missing them, and whatever else. And it's a bit ropey in places, which is why it's sort of ranking midway down the list. But it ups the creep factor. They set it in winter, which is obviously a completely different sort of aesthetic to the usual sort of dry summer, spring, autumn that we get in the rest of the films. And the snow gives an eerie backdrop, and the blood against the snow is just a really sort of, creepy, haunting image. And it's set in a mental asylum as well, and it gives us the backstory that obviously the brothers that are inbred, they're severe learning difficulties, and they're dubbed criminally insane because of the things that they've done before, and they're locked up in this secure facility, and then obviously they get run of the facility, and it all just sort of goes from there. And then the poor victims, the group of teenagers that get caught in this one, they all end up getting caught in a snowstorm, and it's either take refuge in the old creepy asylum or freeze to death outside. And of course, at first they think they're alone, and then they realise that what they've stumbled into, and it all sort of unfolds from there. And like I say, this is, to my mind, the only of the 3 prequels of 4, 5, and 6 that's worth watching, along with the original trilogy. So then, in at number 4, we have the reboot of Wrong Turn from 2021. So this was written by the same chap who wrote the original film, but it has nothing to do with and bears no resemblance to the rest of the series. It's not about the cannibalistic deformed hillbillies, Three Finger, One Eye, Sawtooth, and the variations that have appeared in the sequels. This is about a group of friends that go hiking through the Appalachian Mountains and the trail, and they end up going off trail and finding a sort of a society that's essentially lived off grid and off record since the American Civil War, and they obviously have a completely different way of living to ourselves, and it's that sort of thing. And they end up sort of initially getting the wrong end of the stick. They end up setting up some booby traps that the locals living in the group in the woods have sort of set. And there's like I say, there's things where it's sort of like, have they misunderstood, or have they've been tricked, or whatever. And ultimately they end up having to agree to become part of this society to escape death. And then obviously the film sort of builds from there, and do they escape, or do they become part of the society properly, and where does it go, sort of thing. Like I say, it was a completely different sort of take on the idea of what Wrong Turn could be. But I found it really quite refreshing, because I think they'd gone as far as they could go with the cannibalistic hillbillies, like I say, to the point of where number 6 was just ridiculous and poor. So it was really nice to see, if they were going to do another one, let's take it in a different direction. And I appreciated that. The ending of the film, I thought it's one of those where it will definitely divide audiences, because it does a thing, and then it does another thing, and then it does a third thing, and you just sort of like, sort of holding your breath, trying to work out what's going on, and hang on, is this the real ending, or is this another fake out, or what's going on here, sort of thing. But then when it gets there, I really enjoyed it, but potentially other people might not. I don't think it's the strongest film in the franchise, though, which is why it falls in at the midway point. So, in at number 3, we have the third film in the franchise. And this film, I'm sure, has its fans, and I know for a fact that it has its haters, but I've always really enjoyed it. Yes, it's the weakest of the original trilogy, absolutely. There's no question about that, but I enjoy the premise of it. And the premise is, we start off at the film, and there's a group of teenagers camping out in the woods, and one by one they get picked off by Three Finger and his latest hillbilly accomplice, whichever relative it is, I can't remember. And then there's just the one girl that sort of seemingly gets away. We then join the main plot of the film, where it's a prisoner transfer from one prison to another, and the bus breaks down in the middle of the West Virginia forest. forest, and they end up having to take sort of refuge in the forest, and of course the prisoners get the upper hand on the guards, and then Three Finger and the other hillbilly show up and start causing all kinds of havoc. They run across the young girl from the beginning along the way, and it all sort of becomes this sort of like hostage captor situation where it's sort of like whoever's got the upper hand at that moment sort of takes it, and then you're sort of like twisting and turning, like the good guy's going to win, or the bad guy's going to win, are they good guys but classed as bad guys, and vice versa. And there's a lot of sort of like anti-heroism in this, because they're all like sort of prisoners, and sort of, yeah, I found the characters to be interesting, but at the same time, you know, fairly two-dimensional, and I suppose really just what you need for, you know, essentially sort of monster fodder in a horror movie. But yeah, I enjoyed the premise, and I found that it sort of, you know, it kept me gripped, and it's one that I go back to. So that is Wrong Turn 3 in at number 3. In at number 2, and possibly surprising for some people, is the original film Wrong Turn. So this one's obviously got Desmond Harrington in it and Elijah Dushku as the main stars, and they are the sole survivors. I don't suppose there's any harm in giving the spoilers there for that, for a, you know, film that's 20 years old at this point. But they're the sole survivors of a group of people that end up in a car crash in the middle of the West Virginia woods, and then slowly one by one start getting picked off by the hillbillies, and it's their sort of story of escape and survival. And obviously, it spawned the franchise that I'm talking about here, and that I love, and I enjoy it, and I find it incredibly rewatchable. I don't know whether this makes me crazy for saying this, but I find it quite easy watching. It's one of those films where, because I know all the twists and the turns and the jumps and the scares, I just sort of enjoy the adrenaline rush and the adventure of it, and them trying to escape sort of thing. But I enjoy it. But there's just one film in this series that I think pips it to the post, and I think takes the concept and does it just a little bit better. And in at number 1, that film is Wrong Turn 2, Dead Ends. This was the first sequel, and it's direct-to-video, as all the sequels have been. But I think it takes on what worked about the first film and builds on it perfectly. And we have Three Finger and some more cannibalistic hillbillies that are living in the woods, and they're doing their thing. And then a TV crew goes out there, and they're essentially doing like, you know, Survivor sort of winner takes all cash prize sort of thing, where it's you know, survive in the woods and complete tasks and, you know, daring escapades and all that sort of stuff. And it's run by an ex-army major played by Henry Rollins, and he's brilliant in it. And again, all the cast of characters I find, whilst they're fairly two-dimensional, they're really likeable, especially the Henry Rollins character. He's sort of a secondary character, but he sort of gets his own arc in the middle of the film, where he meets up with the petrol station owner from the first film, who's actually revealed to be the father of the hillbillies, which is even more bizarre when I link back to Wrong Turn 5 that I was talking about before, because the character that Doug Bradley was playing is meant to be that guy, and if you've seen the films, you know why that doesn't work. But yeah, they get their own arc, and then the characters that are on the TV show and competing. This is going to sound like a really weird comparison, but I'd compare them to the Marines in Aliens. There's definitely sort of that sort of Hicks and Vasquez, and you know, that sort of obviously nowhere near as good, but that sort of energy about them, and I really found that the cast gelled really well. And then, you know, the people that make it to the end aren't necessarily the people that you think would make it to the end as well, and I quite like that it sort of turns a few bits on its head, and sort of, you know, like I say, keeps you guessing. There's a lot more towards the story this time as well. You know, there's more locations within the woods, and it gives a bit of backstory, and sort of, like I say, just really builds upon the first one, which is what you want a sequel to do. I think it is widely regarded, certainly when you look at things like IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes and the like, as the superior of the films. You know, the most superior of the films in terms of ratings, at least, and I would have to agree with that. It's my favourite of the franchise. So like I say, in at number 1 we have Wrong Turn 2, Dead End. So there we are, folks. It's been a bit of a free flow, free form video as that, where I've not got the DVDs out and I've just sort of talked about it as it's come. Hopefully you've enjoyed it and hopefully you've liked my ranking. As I always say, let me know down below how you'd rank this series or your thoughts on the Wrong Turn franchise in general. I love these films and I'll happily talk to anyone all day about them. If you've enjoyed the video, drop it a thumbs up. And if you are new to the video and this is the first time you're seeing me in the channel, hello and nice to meet you. Please think about subscribing so that I can keep you around for future videos and get to know you better. And of course, you'll help the channel to grow as well. Above all else, folks, as I always say, take care of yourselves and I look forward to seeing you again really soon for my next video. But bye for now.